In business, there are people who only need to open their mouths and the entire room falls into silence. Their words command attention, not because they speak the loudest, but because every phrase seems to carry weight. And then there are others who talk endlessly, but when the meeting ends, no one remembers what they actually said. This contrast is not about intelligence or authority. It is about communication. Communication is the social currency of business. Just as money flows through markets to keep economies alive, communication flows through every interaction to keep businesses growing. If you learn to use this currency well, you can build trust, create influence, and open doors to opportunities you never imagined. Without it, even the best products or the most innovative ideas remain locked away, unseen and unheard. This audiobook is your invitation into a journey. Not merely to learn how to speak better, but to understand the deeper art of expressing ideas clearly, persuading effectively, and connecting authentically. You will discover how words can transform ordinary exchanges into long-lasting bonds, how listening with true attention can be more persuasive than the most elaborate pitch, and how the way you carry yourself silently communicates more than entire pages of text. Before we go deeper, let me ask you something simple. As you're listening right now, perhaps on your commute, or maybe at home in the quiet of your living room, take a moment and write in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time of day it is. I'd love to know where this message is reaching people. And don't forget to subscribe to Audiobook Sanctuary and turn on the notification bell, so you'll never miss another story that could change the way you work, lead, and live. Now let's return to our journey. Imagine a negotiation table in a boardroom. Sleek chairs, polished wood, a glass of water placed carefully in front of each participant. On one side sits a small startup founder, nervous but hopeful. Across the table are seasoned investors, their faces unreadable. The founder begins to speak. His slides are impressive. Data charts, growth numbers, even a roadmap of product innovations. Yet, the investors lean back, their eyes unfocused. He continues, speaking rapidly, filling the air with technical jargon and industry terms. By the end, his throat is dry, and the room is silent. Finally, one investor asks, "But why should we trust you with our money?" This is where communication reveals its true power. The founder had the facts, but not the currency of connection. He spoke at them, not to them. What he lacked was not capital, but the ability to make his words land as an investment of trust. Now imagine a different scenario. Same boardroom, same startup, but this time the founder begins with a story. When I was 10, my father and I struggled to fix our old refrigerator. We couldn't afford to buy a new one, so we patched it up again and again. That frustration is the reason I built this company, because millions of families around the world face the same challenge of things breaking before they should. Our solution is not just about appliances, it's about dignity, silence again. But this silence is different. The investors lean forward. They listen, not because of the slides, but because of the humanity. The numbers will follow, but the trust has already begun to take root. This is communication as currency. Facts and data are like coins, valuable in themselves, but a story, a connection, a clear and authentic expression, that's gold. That is what circulates and multiplies in the economy of human relationships. You see, success in business does not begin with the product on the table. It begins with the words in the air. Think about the great business leaders of history. People like Steve Jobs, who could make audiences believe that holding a small piece of glass and metal was like holding the future in your hand. Or Warren Buffett, whose plain-spoken wisdom makes complex financial decisions sound like common sense. Their success wasn't only in what they created, but in how they communicated the value of what they created. But here's the important truth. Effective communication is not about being charismatic or extroverted. It is about clarity. It is about alignment between what you think, what you feel, and what you say. When these three are in harmony, people believe you. And when people believe you, they are willing to follow you, invest in you, and partner with you. Now let me share with you a more personal story from the world of business. A mid-level manager in a logistics company was once given the chance to present an idea to the board, a new system that could save the company millions. He spent weeks preparing. His PowerPoint had 25 slides, each crammed with data. On the day of the presentation, he began by nervously apologizing. "I hope this won't take too long. I have a lot of information." By the fourth slide, people were checking their phones. By the 10th, one board member politely interrupted. "Can you tell us in one sentence why this matters?" The manager froze. He had built a castle of details, but no bridge of clarity. The project was never approved. Not because the idea was bad, but because the communication was poor. Later, when asked what went wrong, he admitted, "I didn't know how to get to the point." This is why communication is not just about talking. It is about shaping meaning. Business moves fast, and people have little patience for words that wander. The ability to say something clearly, directly, and with purpose is what turns noise into impact. Yet clarity alone is not enough. Communication is also about listening. Think of it like breathing. Speaking is exhaling, but listening is inhaling. If you only exhale, you run out of air. If you only talk, you lose connection. Active listening is not waiting for your turn to reply. It is listening to understand. It is hearing not just the words, but the emotion behind them. A Japanese business leader once said, "The most powerful thing in a meeting is not the one who speaks, but the one who listens until everyone else has spoken." In that silence, relationships are built because people feel seen and valued. And when people feel valued, they open doors. As we step deeper into this audiobook, remember, the art of business communication is not a luxury. It is a foundation. Products can be copied, money can be lost, but trust, once built through words, becomes the most loyal asset of all. And so, as we close this opening section, hold on to this thought. Communication is not decoration, it is transaction. Every sentence you speak is either a deposit or a withdrawal in the bank of trust. Which will you choose? In the next section, we will unlock the golden rules that turn ordinary conversations into extraordinary tools of influence. Rules that have guided leaders, closed deals, and kept businesses alive for centuries. But how does communication actually become a form of social currency in business? What gives it such weight and value? The answer lies in timeless principles, rules that turn speech into clarity, listening into power, and dialogue into results. These are not tricks or shortcuts. They are golden rules, carved out of the experience of generations of leaders, negotiators, and entrepreneurs. When applied, they can transform how people respond to you, whether in a boardroom, across a dinner table, or in a quick hallway conversation. The first golden rule is active listening. It may sound simple, but in practice, few truly master it. Most people listen with the intent to reply, not to understand. They wait for the other person to pause just long enough so they can insert their own opinion. But active listening is different. It is leaning in with genuine curiosity. It is repeating back what you heard in your own words to confirm understanding. It is noticing what is not said, the hesitations, the sighs, the pauses that reveal more than sentences ever could. Consider the story of Abraham Lincoln, known not only as a great speaker, but also as an extraordinary listener. During the Civil War, when his cabinet members argued bitterly about strategies, Lincoln often remained silent, letting each voice be heard. He would take notes, nod, and only after everyone had exhausted their arguments did he quietly respond. This gave his words immense power, because he had listened so completely. When he finally spoke, people knew his response had absorbed the full weight of the discussion. That is active listening at its finest. In business, when a customer feels heard, they trust you. When an employee feels heard, they follow you. And when a partner feels heard, they stay with you. The second golden rule is be concise. In the rush of corporate life, attention is the rarest resource. If you bury your message in 10 minutes of explanation, people stop listening by minute 2. Conciseness is not about cutting information, it is about distilling it. It is stripping away the unnecessary so that what remains is pure meaning. Take Winston Churchill, who prepared extensively for his speeches. Though he was capable of long orations, he often chose sharp, direct words. Never, never, never give up. Those 4 words carried more force than 100 sentences could have. In business, the executive who can explain a proposal in 1 clear sentence will always command more respect than the one who needs 20 slides. One CEO once told his managers, "If you can't summarize your idea in 30 seconds, you don't understand it well enough." That rule became part of the company culture. Meetings became shorter, but decisions became faster and better. Brevity, done right, is not a lack of detail. It is the essence of mastery. The third golden rule is clarity. Clarity means using words that everyone can understand. It means avoiding jargon when simpler language will do. Too often, people hide behind complex phrases to sound intelligent, but what they achieve instead is confusion. In contrast, clarity builds confidence. When you explain an idea in plain language, it shows that you have truly mastered it. Albert Einstein once said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." This principle applies directly to business. A financial advisor who explains investment risks in everyday terms builds more trust than one who buries clients under percentages and projections. A project manager who outlines next steps in clear, simple sentences will lead more effectively than one who fills the air with technical terms. Clarity also extends to tone. If your words are clear, but your tone is uncertain, the message still loses strength. People don't just hear what you say, they sense how confident you are about it. If you say, "We might be able to deliver this by Friday," it plants doubt. But if you say, "We will deliver this by Friday," the clarity of conviction builds confidence in your ability. The fourth golden rule is directness. Many people fear being too direct, worrying it may come across as harsh. But in business, indirect words often create more harm than direct ones. Imagine a manager who says to an employee, "We may need to rethink this project a little." The employee leaves confused, unsure if their work is acceptable or not. Contrast this with a manager who says, "This project is not meeting our standards. Here's what we need to change." The second may sting for a moment, but it provides clarity, direction, and respect for the employee's time. Directness is not rudeness. It is honesty delivered with respect. When you are direct, you save time, prevent misunderstandings, and show that you value the other person enough to be clear with them. Directness builds credibility because people know where you stand. Let me share a corporate example. A European company was negotiating a joint venture with an American firm. The Europeans, valuing diplomacy, avoided blunt language. They said things like, "We will consider this," or "Perhaps we can find another way." The Americans interpreted these as yes. Later, when deals fell through, frustration erupted. The relationship soured. All of this could have been avoided with more direct communication. Clear yes or no answers, paired with respectful explanations, often save months of wasted effort. Now, these 4 golden rules, active listening, conciseness, clarity, and directness, are not separate skills. They are interwoven. Active listening gives you the understanding needed to be clear. Clarity allows you to be concise. Conciseness makes your directness sharper and more impactful. Together, they form a framework that turns everyday communication into a powerful tool of influence. Think of them as instruments in a symphony. Listening is the steady drumbeat that keeps rhythm. Conciseness is the sharp violin note cutting through the air. Clarity is the deep resonance of the cello, grounding the sound. Directness is the trumpet, bold and unmistakable. When played together, they create music that moves hearts and decisions. But let us not forget that these are principles, not formulas. Applying them requires wisdom and balance. Too much conciseness can sound abrupt. Too much directness can sound cold. The key lies in balance. Listening deeply enough to know when to be brief, being clear enough to know when to be firm, and being direct enough to know when to soften with empathy. Here's an image to hold on to. Picture a bridge over a rushing river. On one side of the bridge stands you, with your ideas, your products, your goals. On the other side stands the person you want to reach, your customer, partner, or colleague. The river between you is full of distractions, doubts, and misunderstandings. The golden rules are the beams of that bridge. Listening lays the foundation. Clarity forms the pathway. Conciseness strengthens the structure. Directness ensures that both sides can cross with confidence. Without these beams, words fall into the water, swept away by the current of busyness. With them, communication becomes the bridge that delivers value across. As we conclude this section, remember this. In business, the measure of your communication is not how much you say, but how much people understand, remember, and act upon. Listening, brevity, clarity, and honesty are not optional. They are the pillars of every successful conversation. And so, as you hold these rules in mind, let us now step into the next chapter of our journey, learning how to speak the customer's language. Because even if you master the golden rules, their true power is unlocked only when you align your words with the needs and vocabulary of the people you serve. Once you understand the golden rules of communication, the next challenge is knowing who you are speaking to. In business, no audience matters more than the customer. A product without customers is nothing more than an idea. But a message that resonates with customers can transform even an ordinary product into a movement. To communicate effectively with customers, you must learn to speak their language, not yours. Let us start with a simple truth. Customers rarely care about what you sell. They care about how what you sell makes them feel. They don't buy features, they buy outcomes. They don't buy services, they buy solutions. They don't buy your story, they buy their story, reflected in yours. This is why speaking the customer's language is not about words alone. It's about empathy. Imagine walking into a store looking for a pair of shoes. A salesperson approaches you and begins describing the shoe's manufacturing process, the type of glue used, The stitching method. You might nod politely, but inside you're thinking, will these shoes be comfortable on my feet? Will they last through my daily commute? Now imagine another salesperson who asks, do you walk a lot during the day? Do your feet ever feel sore after long hours? When you say yes, they smile and reply. These shoes are designed exactly for that. They're lightweight, and the sole absorbs shock so your knees won't ache. Try them on. You'll feel the difference immediately. The second salesperson has spoken your language. This principle is not new. In the 19th century, John Wanamaker, one of America's early retail pioneers, built his empire not by focusing on the products, but on the experience of the customer. He famously said, "The customer is king." His advertisements didn't just describe items, they told customers what those items meant for their lives. That shift changed retail forever. In today's business world, the same principle applies. Whether you are selling coffee, consulting services, or cutting-edge technology, customers want to hear themselves in your words. They want you to mirror their concerns, reflect their values, and echo their goals. How do you do this? Begin with understanding their needs. Needs are not always spoken directly. Sometimes they hide beneath complaints, casual remarks, or even silence. A restaurant guest who says, "The food is fine," may really be saying, "I wish the service made me feel more welcome." An employee who says, "The system works," may be hinting at frustrations they are afraid to voice. Listening for the unsaid is as important as listening for the said. In the 1980s, a struggling Japanese car manufacturer faced a problem. Their cars were reliable, but not popular in America. Customers saw them as cheap, not aspirational. The company conducted interviews, not about cars, but about how people imagined themselves driving. They discovered that American customers wanted to feel proud, not just practical. The company changed its marketing, focusing on dignity, safety, and family pride. Within years, that company, Toyota, became one of the world's leading automakers. They learned to speak the customer's deeper language, identity. Speaking the customer's language also requires mirroring their vocabulary. If your customer describes a problem as frustrating, use that word back. If they say they want something simple, repeat it. Mirroring is not manipulation, it is validation. It shows you are paying attention. It shows that their words matter enough to shape your words. A real estate agent once shared how she closed deals with nervous first-time buyers. Instead of bombarding them with industry jargon like APR rates or closing costs, she would say, "I know this feels overwhelming. Let's make it simple. You want a safe home for your family, and my job is to make sure nothing gets in the way of that." She used the customer's vocabulary: safe, family, simple. And because of that, buyers trusted her to guide them through the complexity. But mirroring language must go deeper than words. It must touch values. Customers are not just logical. They are emotional beings guided by what they believe in. Think of Apple's iconic slogan, "Think different." They never sold just computers. They sold rebellion against conformity. They spoke directly to people who saw themselves as creative, independent, even visionary. That alignment of values turned ordinary consumers into loyal evangelists. Now let's take a step into negotiation scenarios. A company once tried to sell software to a hospital. Their presentation was full of numbers: faster data processing, lower costs, improved efficiency. But the hospital board remained unmoved. Then one executive shifted the conversation. "Every minute your nurses spend searching for records is a minute they are not at a patient's bedside. Our software gives that minute back to the patient." Silence filled the room, and then nods. They had finally spoken the hospital's true language: patient care. The deal was signed. This illustrates a vital truth. The words that move customers are not always about your product. They are about the customer's priorities. If you can link your service to their deepest motivations, you will never need to push. They will pull you closer. But beware of one common trap: assuming you already know your customer's language. Businesses often fail because they rely on outdated assumptions. Kodak, once the giant of photography, believed customers wanted film. But what customers really wanted was memories. Convenient, shareable, instant. Digital cameras gave them that, and Kodak collapsed because it never learned to speak the evolving language. So how can you ensure you are always tuned in? Ask questions. Not the surface-level kind, but questions that open doors. Instead of asking, "Do you like this feature?" ask, "What frustrates you most about your current solution?" Instead of, "Would you buy this?" ask, "What would make this valuable to you?" And when they answer, listen, not just to words, but to the emotions riding beneath them. Here's a mental exercise. Picture yourself as a translator, standing between two worlds: the world of your business and the world of your customer. Your job is not to force the customer to learn your language, but to translate your value into theirs. If they speak in terms of time saved, frame your pitch in hours, not in dollars. If they speak in terms of safety, frame your service in peace of mind, not in features. Translation is the essence of customer communication. At the end of the day, speaking the customer's language is about respect. It says, "I see you. I understand you. I am willing to step into your world so that together we can build a bridge." And that bridge is what carries every transaction, every relationship, every long-term partnership. So remember this: customers do not care about your vocabulary. They care about theirs. They do not want you to sound smart. They want you to sound like you understand. The deeper your empathy, the stronger your words will land. And with that, we transition to the next essential arena: communication with partners. If customers demand empathy, partners demand honesty. If customers want you to speak their language, partners want you to share their vision. In the next section, we will explore how communication builds or destroys business partnerships, and why the principle of win-win is more than a phrase. It is a survival strategy. If customers are the lifeblood of business, then partners are the backbone. A business can survive with customers alone, but it cannot grow strong and sustainable without partnerships. Partners are the ones who share risk, provide resources, open doors to markets, and strengthen your capacity. But here is the truth: the foundation of every partnership is not contracts or profits. It is communication. And the kind of communication that matters here is honesty, transparency, and the relentless pursuit of win-win outcomes. Think of history's great alliances. During World War II, Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt maintained one of the most vital partnerships of the century. They didn't always agree, and often their nations had conflicting priorities. But through countless letters, telegrams, and face-to-face meetings, they built trust with candid conversations. Churchill's bluntness and Roosevelt's openness created a channel of communication strong enough to carry the weight of an entire war effort. Their words became the cement of an alliance that changed history. The same principle applies in business. Partnerships fail not because of competition, but because of miscommunication. Silence breeds suspicion. Half-truths create cracks. Promises without delivery erode trust. But when communication is clear and truthful, even the hardest storms can be weathered. Let's take the example of a technology startup partnering with a larger corporation. The startup is agile, full of ideas, but strapped for cash. The corporation has capital and reach, but is slow to innovate. On paper, it seems like the perfect match. Yet, within a year, the partnership begins to strain. Why? Because the startup, afraid of losing support, hides delays in product development. The corporation, unwilling to appear demanding, withholds concerns about budget overruns. Both sides smile in meetings, but beneath the surface grows a quiet resentment. When the truth finally surfaces, it is too late. Trust is broken. The partnership dissolves. Now imagine the same scenario with different communication. The startup admits upfront, "We are running 3 months behind. Here are the reasons. Here is how we will catch up." The corporation responds, "We are concerned about costs. Let's adjust the plan together." Honesty does not weaken trust. It strengthens it. Transparency builds the bridge that money alone cannot. In the 1990s, Toyota and General Motors formed a partnership known as NUMI, New United Motor Manufacturing, Inc. At first, the relationship was uneasy. 2 competitors, 2 cultures, 1 factory. But what saved NUMI from collapse was communication. Toyota shared its production system openly, while GM admitted it had much to learn. Workers were trained not just in technical skills, but in the philosophy of open communication. Every worker had the right to stop the production line if they saw a problem. This culture of honesty created one of the most successful joint ventures in automotive history. Partnership communication requires one more principle: the win-win mindset. Too many business deals are poisoned by a zero-sum mentality. The belief that for me to win, you must lose. That mindset may yield short-term gains, but destroys long-term relationships. Win-win is not naive idealism. It is strategic wisdom. When both sides feel they have gained, the partnership grows stronger. When one side feels exploited, the relationship is already dying. Stephen Covey, in his classic book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, placed "think win-win" as one of the core habits of success. He argued that in every negotiation, the question should not be, "How much can I get?" but "How can both of us leave better off?" Communication is the tool that makes this possible. By voicing concerns, clarifying expectations, and listening to the needs of the other side, you move from confrontation to collaboration. Let's picture a real-world negotiation. A small supplier provides components to a large electronics company. Demand suddenly spikes, and the supplier struggles to keep up. The company could pressure the supplier, demanding penalties for delays. But instead, they call a meeting. The supplier admits, "We cannot meet your demand at this pace." The company replies, "We understand. Let's invest in expanding your facilities so you can grow with us." That single conversation turns a potential conflict into a partnership for growth. 10 years later, that supplier becomes one of the company's most reliable allies. Honesty, however, is not always easy. It requires courage. It means admitting mistakes, confessing limitations, or confronting uncomfortable truths. But the alternative, silence or deception, always costs more in the end. A pharmaceutical company once lost billions because it failed to tell its partner about safety concerns in early drug trials. When the truth came out, not only did the deal collapse, but the company's reputation never recovered. Had they communicated openly from the start, they might have saved both the partnership and their integrity. Transparency also means being clear about boundaries. Partnerships are not about giving everything away. They are about defining where responsibilities lie. A vague partnership agreement without honest communication is like a map without roads. Both sides may know the destination, but without clear paths, they get lost. Another key to partner communication is cultural sensitivity. In global business, words carry different meanings. Directness in one culture can feel rude in another. Politeness in one language may seem evasive in another. Successful partnerships honor these differences. They adapt, not by abandoning honesty, but by expressing it in ways that respect cultural norms. For example, an American executive once negotiated with Japanese counterparts. Used to straightforward answers, he grew frustrated when the Japanese said, "That will be difficult," instead of a simple "no." Later, he learned that in their culture, difficult was no, but expressed with politeness. Once he understood this, communication flowed more smoothly, and the deal succeeded. Communication with partners is not about saying everything. It is about saying the right things clearly, honestly, and with the intent to strengthen the relationship. It is about creating an atmosphere where both sides can voice concerns without fear, where wins are celebrated together and losses are shared with dignity. As we close this section, hold on to this truth. Contracts may bind companies, but communication binds people. And it is people who make partnerships succeed or fail. If you speak with honesty, listen with openness, and pursue win-win outcomes, your partnerships will not only survive but thrive. Now, having explored communication with customers and partners, let us turn inward to the relationships that sustain a business from within. In the next section, we will uncover how leaders use words, tone, and presence to inspire employees, resolve conflicts, and guide organizations toward success. Within every business, beyond customers and partners, lies the group that often decides whether an idea thrives or dies: employees. A company is not bricks, software, or machines. It is people, living, breathing, thinking people whose energy and commitment create the product, serve the customer, and carry out the vision. And just as customers and partners require skillful communication, so too do employees. But here, the responsibility grows deeper, because communication from leaders does not just inform, it inspires, guides, and sustains. Think of a leader addressing their team on a Monday morning. The words they choose set the emotional tone for the entire week. If the leader says, "We have a lot to get through, and I expect results," the team may feel pressure but little purpose. If the leader says, "Here's why this week matters, and here's how each of you makes a difference," the team feels not only urgency, but also meaning. The difference is not in the workload, it's in the communication. Clarity is the first rule when speaking with employees. Nothing destroys morale faster than vague instructions. Imagine an employee told, "Make this presentation better." What does better mean? More slides? Fewer slides? More visuals? Clearer language? Without clarity, frustration grows. Contrast that with a leader who says, "This presentation needs to be shorter, with fewer words per slide, and it should highlight the benefits rather than the features." Now the employee knows what success looks like. Clear communication transforms confusion into action, but clarity must be balanced with encouragement. Employees are not machines. They do not simply execute tasks. They carry emotions, insecurities, and aspirations. Leaders who communicate only instructions end up with compliance, not commitment. Encouragement, words of appreciation, recognition, or belief, turns compliance into motivation. Consider the leadership style of Mary Kay Ash, founder of Mary Kay Cosmetics. She built one of the largest direct sales companies in the world, not only with products, but with words. Her motto was simple: imagine everyone you meet is wearing a sign that says, "Make me feel important." She encouraged her employees constantly, publicly praising successes and privately coaching through failures. Her communication style created a culture where employees felt valued, and in return, they gave their best. There is also power in storytelling. Employees respond not just to directives, but to narratives that connect their daily work to a larger purpose. Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks, often spoke of his childhood in Brooklyn, where his family struggled after his father lost a job. That story became the foundation for Starbucks' culture of offering healthcare benefits, even to part-time workers. Employees didn't just make coffee, they carried forward a vision of dignity in work. That kind of communication builds loyalty deeper than any paycheck can. Tone matters as much as words. A leader who says, "Good job," with a flat voice sends no encouragement. A leader who says the same words with warmth and eye contact communicates genuine appreciation. Employees are finely tuned to tone. They notice hesitation, sarcasm, or indifference. Leaders who fail to align tone with message erode trust. Nonverbal cues play a critical role here too. A manager who avoids eye contact during difficult conversations signals discomfort or dishonesty. A leader who crosses arms while saying, "I'm open to feedback," contradicts their own words. Employees listen with their eyes as much as with their ears. The leader's posture, gestures, and expressions constantly communicate, even in silence. Now, let's talk about avoiding ambiguity. Ambiguity is the silent killer of productivity. When employees don't understand expectations, deadlines, or responsibilities, they waste time guessing. They may duplicate work, leave gaps, or feel anxious. Leaders often create ambiguity unintentionally by assuming others know what they mean. To prevent this, great communicators check for understanding. They ask, "Can you repeat back the key points so I know I was clear?" This simple act turns a one-way message into a two-way confirmation. Another dimension of employee communication is conflict. Every workplace faces disagreements over resources, priorities, or recognition. Leaders who avoid conflict let it fester until it explodes. Leaders who confront it harshly create fear. The key is communication that acknowledges emotions while seeking solutions. Abraham Lincoln, once again, offers an example. Known for his team of rivals, he appointed cabinet members who had once opposed him. Conflict was inevitable, yet Lincoln's communication style, listening with patience, addressing disagreements openly, and appealing to shared goals, kept his team united in the midst of war. In business, the same principle applies. Leaders who frame conflict as us against the problem rather than me against you turn disputes into opportunities for growth. Let me share a story from the airline industry. Herb Kelleher, co-founder of Southwest Airlines, was famous for his ability to communicate with employees. Once, when negotiations with the pilots' union grew tense, he didn't hide in boardrooms. Instead, he met pilots face to face, listened to their frustrations, and cracked jokes to ease tension. His communication style, clear, respectful, and human, helped maintain a culture of loyalty in an industry often plagued by strikes. There is also the danger of over-communicating without meaning. Endless emails, repetitive meetings, and constant updates can drown employees in noise. Effective leaders communicate less frequently but more meaningfully. They make sure that when they speak, employees know it matters. And finally, leaders must remember that communication is not just top-down. Employees also need channels to speak upward without fear. When leaders create safe spaces for feedback, they discover insights from the people closest to the work. Google, for instance, became famous for encouraging employees to challenge ideas openly, even the CEOs. That culture of communication fueled innovation. At its heart, leadership communication is about building trust. Employees don't expect perfection. They expect honesty, clarity, encouragement, and respect. When leaders provide those consistently, employees respond with loyalty, creativity, and resilience. So hold on to this thought. A business may hire people with contracts, but it keeps them with communication. Employees who feel seen and inspired will walk through fire for a leader. Those who feel ignored or misunderstood will leave at the first chance. And now, as we move forward, let us explore one final layer of business communication: the hidden language beyond words. Because even when you are silent, your eyes, your gestures, your tone, all are still speaking. And in many cases, they speak louder than words. Even when no words are spoken, the conversation continues. Business is not only conducted in boardrooms, through presentations, or in emails. It is carried out in a handshake, in the firmness of posture, in the tilt of the head, in the rise and fall of the voice. This is the hidden language of business communication, the nonverbal cues that either strengthen or sabotage the messages you intend to send. Think of the last time you sat across from someone who claimed, "I'm confident this will succeed," while nervously tapping their foot and avoiding eye contact. The words said one thing, the body said another. And which message did you believe? Most likely, the nonverbal one. Psychologists have long shown that in moments of doubt, people trust what they see and hear in tone far more than what they read in words. Take eye contact, for example. It is one of the simplest but most powerful nonverbal tools in business. A steady gaze communicates confidence and sincerity, while darting eyes suggest dishonesty or insecurity. In ancient Rome, orators were trained to sweep their eyes across audiences, never locking too long on one person, yet never appearing distant. Julius Caesar himself was said to have mastered the art of commanding attention with his eyes. Modern leaders can do the same. When speaking with employees or negotiating with clients, balanced eye contact builds trust faster than any clever phrase. Gestures matter too. Open palms communicate honesty, while clenched fists or crossed arms suggest defensiveness. A famous example comes from John F. Kennedy's televised debates against Richard Nixon in 1960. Nixon, recovering from illness, appeared stiff and uneasy, often wiping sweat from his brow. Kennedy, by contrast, stood tall, gestured with relaxed openness, and smiled at key moments. Though the words of the debate were evenly matched, television viewers overwhelmingly believed Kennedy had won, proof of how nonverbal presence can sway perception. Posture communicates volumes. A leader slouched in a chair sends the signal of disinterest or fatigue. A leader who leans forward conveys engagement and urgency. Even in silence, posture can inspire or discourage a team. During the 2008 financial crisis, many CEOs were summoned before Congress. Those who sat rigid, arms crossed, appeared evasive. Those who leaned forward, hands open on the table, seemed cooperative and honest. Same questions, same answers, but posture shaped public trust. Tone of voice is another invisible force. Words delivered in monotone die quickly. Words delivered with rising energy spark action. Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech is remembered not just for its content, but for the cadence and rhythm of his voice. The rising and falling tones carried emotion straight into the hearts of listeners. In business, tone can turn an ordinary announcement into a rallying cry. A simple sentence like, "We can do this," can inspire or fall flat depending on the energy behind it. But the hidden language is not only about projecting power, it is also about listening. Nonverbal cues reveal how well you are receiving others. Nodding at the right moment shows attentiveness. Leaning slightly forward shows interest. Even silence, when paired with focused presence, signals respect. Too often, leaders undermine communication not by saying the wrong words, but by appearing distracted. Checking a phone during a meeting says louder than words, "You are not my priority." Of course, nonverbal communication can also betray you. Stress, fatigue, or fear often slip through in gestures and expressions. A manager announcing, "Everything is fine," while frowning and sighing, sends the opposite message. This is why self-awareness is critical. Great communicators practice aligning their nonverbal signals with their words. They rehearse not only speeches, but also posture, gestures, and tone. Actors do this naturally, but so do world-class leaders. They know their audience is reading every movement. Consider the art of the handshake. In many cultures, it is the first impression of a business relationship. A limp handshake suggests weakness, a crushing one, aggression. The best handshake is firm but not overpowering, brief but not rushed, accompanied by eye contact and a genuine smile. That single moment often sets the emotional tone for what follows. And yet, nonverbal cues vary across cultures. In the Middle East, prolonged eye contact may be a sign of respect, while in parts of Asia, it may be seen as challenging or disrespectful. Gestures that are innocent in one country may be offensive in another. For example, the thumbs-up sign, common in Western countries as a symbol of approval, has historically been an insult in others. Savvy business leaders learn these differences, adapting their hidden language to avoid unintentional offense. But perhaps the most overlooked aspect of nonverbal communication is silence itself. Silence is not emptiness. It is a powerful tool. In negotiations, silence after a proposal can pressure the other side to fill the void, often with concessions. In leadership, silence after a difficult question shows thoughtfulness rather than haste. And in moments of conflict, silence can de-escalate tension by allowing emotions to cool. Used wisely, silence speaks volumes. Let's explore a cautionary tale. A promising young executive once gave a pitch to investors. His words were carefully crafted, his data precise. Yet his constant pacing, rapid hand movements, and uneven tone made him seem anxious. The investors later admitted they did not trust his stability, despite the solid proposal. He lost the deal not because of content, but because of delivery. On the other hand, Warren Buffett, one of the most trusted voices in business, is known for his calm demeanor. He speaks slowly, with pauses, and uses simple hand gestures. His nonverbal communication mirrors his words: patient, steady, trustworthy. This is why when Buffett speaks, markets listen. So how can you master this hidden language? Begin with awareness. Record yourself in conversation. Watch your posture, gestures, and expressions. Do they align with your words? Then practice. Stand tall, breathe deeply, make eye contact. Use pauses deliberately. Smile genuinely. Over time, these become habits, not performances. Remember, people believe what they see more than what they hear. If your nonverbal cues contradict your words, trust evaporates. But when they align, your communication becomes whole. Words and presence working together. Now, as we draw this audiobook to a close, let us weave together everything we've explored. The currency of communication, the golden rules, the language of customers, the honesty of partnerships, the inspiration of leadership, and the hidden power of nonverbal cues. Because in the end, Business communication is not just about transactions. It is about transformation. You have traveled with me through the landscape of business communication, from the first principle that words are currency, to the golden rules that give them weight, to the ways they shape relationships with customers, partners, and employees. Along the way, we uncovered the truth that even silence and gestures carry messages as powerful as any speech. Think back on the stories. The startup founder whose fax failed because he lacked connection. The negotiator who unlocked a hospital deal by speaking the language of care. The partnerships saved or broken by honesty. The employees inspired by leaders who made them feel valued. And the deals won or lost on posture, tone, or a simple handshake. Each one illustrates the same reality. Communication is not decoration in business. It is the foundation. So let us return to the central truth. In every transaction, communication is the bridge. Money may fund the structure, but it is words and the trust behind them that make people cross. Without that trust, even the strongest product cannot stand. With it, even fragile beginnings can grow into empires. And here lies your challenge. Do not think of communication as a skill to use occasionally, like a tool pulled from a shelf. Think of it as the air your business breathes. Every email, every meeting, every glance across a room adds or subtracts from the balance of trust. If you treat words as currency, you will spend them wisely. If you treat presence as language, you will master influence beyond words. Perhaps you are a manager trying to rally a tired team, or a business owner pitching to skeptical investors, or a leader navigating conflict between departments. Whatever your role, remember, success does not come from speaking more, but from speaking true, from listening until others feel heard, from shaping clarity out of complexity, from aligning what you say with what you show. In every deal, every partnership, every relationship, you carry the most valuable currency in business, your communication. Protect it, refine it, use it to invest in trust, to purchase loyalty, to build bridges stronger than contracts. And as you step back into your daily conversations, carry this final thought. The greatest leaders, the most successful entrepreneurs, and the most trusted partners are not remembered only for what they built. They are remembered for how they spoke. Words that inspired, words that guided, words that lived on long after the meetings ended. So begin today. In your next conversation, listen more deeply, speak more clearly, stand more confidently. Make every word, every pause, every glance a deposit in the bank of trust. For in business, as in life, the fortunes we leave behind are not only counted in dollars, but in the words that shaped the people around us.